Today you're going to be writing your next program. It's called Furniture. And it's your first program that you're going to have to write on your own that involves file reading. So by this point, you should have already typed in that file read test program that I showed you in the last video into Eclipse, and you should have had me check it to make sure it's working correctly, because you're going to need to use that program as kind of like a template when you're writing this program. So anyway, I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. Let's start reading through this. So the manufacturing company sells infant chairs and strollers to companies. Input for this program is found in the file furniture.dat. The input in the file consists of the name of the buyer, which is a string, the number of chairs bought, and the number of strollers bought. Okay, so when you go to set up your new program, you're going to make a furniture project, and you can call it CS1 like usual. I called my package furniture program. You can actually call it whatever you want. But you're going to need to go to your Computer Science 1 folder that you have saved somewhere on your computer and find the file in the input furniture.dat, because you need that in order for the program to run. It's kind of like that students1.dat from the file read test. So anyways, you're going to copy furniture.dat from wherever you have it saved in that Computer Science 1 folder, and you're going to paste it right here on the name of the project, Furniture, and it should pop up at the bottom there. So now here's what the file looks like. Like the paper said, you've got 3 input values. You've got the name of the buyer, which is a string. You've got the number of chairs bought, which is an integer, and another integer for the number of strollers bought, and that's all that's in the file. So you're going to have to start by reading in the name, the number of chairs, and the number of strollers. All of that's going to have to go into a variable. Just like in students, in the file read test, you write in the student name and their grade. Okay, let's go back here. Write a program that will calculate the cost of the chairs per order, the cost of the strollers per order, and the order cost. The program must also calculate the total number of chairs, the total number of strollers, the total cost of all chairs, the total cost of all strollers, and the total cost of all orders. Calculations are based on the following tables. Okay, so now you can see based off of the number of chairs or the number of strollers they buy, the cost per individual chair is a little bit different. The more you buy, if you buy in bulk, they cost a little bit less. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have variables for the name of the buyer, the num chairs, and num strollers. Once you have those read in, you're going to take num chairs and num strollers, and you're going to calculate the cost of the chairs per that order. Like for example, the first person's buying 25 chairs. So if num chairs is greater than 20, the cost per chair is $49.59. So to get the cost of the chairs per order, we would take $49.59 times whatever num chairs was. Same for the number of strollers. The first person's not buying any strollers at 0. So if the cost is between 0 and 19, the cost per stroller is $89.99. But that times 0 is going to be 0 for the first person anyways. So we're going to use these charts kind of to figure out the cost of chairs per order, the cost of strollers per order. Once you get both of those, give me the total order cost, which is just the sum of those two values. Now here you have a lot of accumulators. The program must also calculate total number of chairs, total number of strollers, total cost of all the chairs, total cost of all the strollers, total cost of all orders. So your program is really going to have a lot of variables. You know you have a string for the buyer. You know you have 2 ints for num chairs, num strollers. That's kind of like, if I look at file read test quick, that's like you were reading in the first name, the last name, the age, and the GPA. Those 3 variables, the buyer, num chairs, num strollers, you're going to put right inside your while loop and read those in from the file. After that, you're going to need to make another method to calculate. And you want to calculate for every person, so that should go in the while loop too. That's where you're going to do the work of figuring out the cost of chairs, cost of strollers, order cost. You can also calculate your accumulators there too. For the total number of chairs, you would just do total num chairs plus equals num chairs or something like that. Same for all those, but all of these things that I'm listing need individual variables. So there gets to be a lot of variables in this program, so you want to really name them appropriately to make sure you know what you're talking about, because it's easy to get confused. Okay, now after you've done all the calculations, it says output for this program must be in column format, so you're going to need to use tabs. Maybe I should be making some notes here. Column format means you're going to need tabs. And I showed you in the last video how to do tabs, that \T thing, with all values evenly spaced. The bottom row must include the totals for each column. Monetary values must be printed to 2 decimal places. So if it's going to be printed to 2 decimal places, it's potential that you'll need decimal format. And I'm trying to think, that was in cash registers. If you go back to cash register, you can find decimal format. This last part's important too for the columns. Dollar symbols are not required. It turns out that it won't tab right if you put the dollar symbols in, so just leave the dollar symbols out. Output headings must include sold to, so that's the buyer name, number of shares, cost of shares, so that's what you're reading in from the file. Or sorry, number of shares is what you're reading in from the file. Cost of shares you're calculating. Number of strollers, reading in from the file. Cost of strollers you're calculating. And cost of order you're calculating. Now you need to think about how you're going to print this out. So first off, let me show you it running. So here's my driver for furniture. Here's what it looks like when I run it. Okay, so I've got my regular heading up at the top. That's still going to be there. Here's those column headings I was talking about. Those need to be printed out first. So that's going to print out one time before it prints out all the individual stuff. So again, go back to file retest. We didn't have headings in file retest, but think about where you would need to put that right heading method so that it would only print out one time, not every time. Okay? Now after that, each individual person prints out their stuff. And you're not going to have different variables for each individual person. You don't even know how many variables you would need there. So you need to read in the Babies R Us people, calculate it, and print out for Babies R Us. That's similar to how we did it in file retest. We read in someone's name, age, and GPA. We did some calculations, and then we printed for that person. So that's exactly the same for this program. You're going to read in what you can read in, which is the buyer, num chairs, num strollers. You're going to do some calculations, which I'd like you to make a calculate method for that. And then you're going to print the data for that person right there. That's got to happen at every single time, so that would happen inside the while loop. Oops. Now then the last thing, after everybody's stuff prints out, it prints out your accumulators. Your totals print at the bottom of all those columns. And again, think about where that would need to go in your program. That has to happen at the end and only one time. You don't want to print out the totals for every individual person as you're printing those out. You want to print that out once at the end. So think about where in all of this it would make sense to go. Okay, so again, use file retest as a starting. I would honestly pretty much have this open and copy and paste or go line by line and just update it for this program. You're still going to need the try. Instead of students1.dat, you'll have furniture.dat right there. You're going to need the while loop because you don't necessarily know how many buyers there's going to be in the file. You need the catch because anytime you're reading it from a file, you need to try catch. So the basic outline is the exact same. It's just you have to change some individual things. All right, so that should give you enough to get started. Get your hierarchy chart written and checked by me before you start typing. But if you have any questions or are ready for me to check, raise your hand and call me over. Good luck.